Hello everyone, this is Madhuri, Associate Professor, Department of Law, Padmavati University. Today we are going to look on another topic in labor law, that is protection of the weaker sections of the labor. Here we can see an introduction part how unorganized labor and organized labor of the Social Security Act has been come on 2008 and the 1976 Bonded Labor Act and Contract Labor Act 1970, Child Labor and conclude. Let's see a particular way which is in an introduction part. The protection of this particular weaker sections of a labor is very important aspect of labor law and social justice. Here, various reasons and various laws and regulations are in the place of safeguard the rights and interests of all kind of people. Those are marginalized workers. And some we can say protection for the weaker sections. Some laws are minimum wages laws, child labor laws, equal pay for equal work, scheduled caste and scheduled tribes protection, migrant labor protection, occupational health and safety. Unorganized worker social responsibility or the Social Security Act 2008 says that this particular act is been mainly framed to the unorganized worker social security in an Indian legislation aimed to providing a social benefits to unorganized workers. While I cannot provide any exhaustive analysis on this, but up to 2022, I can just offer a general view over a particular act will come under acts. But here, definition part, if you want to go look into that, unorganized workers are the social security and the beneficiaries of the key role on this particular way. National security or the National Social Security Board has been framed to just formulate the social security schemes for unorganized workers. State welfare boards, we can say, are required to set up a state welfare boards to implement the social security schemes at the state level. And the registration of unorganized workers has been framed according to that rights to avail the benefits of the Act. Social security schemes stands on the formulation of social security schemes which may comes under health and maternity benefit, life, disability coverage, old age protections we can say. So founding or funding here we can see is it is mandate contributions for the central government, state government and unorganized workers and all kind of schemes to take into the particular action. And powers and functions of the board, we can say that national and state level boards, which includes framing the policies and monitoring the implementation of schemes. Case last 2021, we can say Kumar Pandey versus Union of India. They have been given a particular benefit of the workers to the unorganized workers on Social Security Act 2008. And he also emphasizes that an employed workers and unorganized workers is defined under the particular Act of 2008. And Unorganized Worker Social Securities Act has been given on the particular Parliament of India, and as at the same time unorganized workers for the welfare of the benefit we have to work on that, and this act receives an assent on the particular ways to show that the present President of India on 30th December 2008 it is replaced with the particular Social Security 2020. Bonded labor system we can say 1976, and here this act has been comes to an important piece for the legislation of India aimed to eradicate the particular bonded labor and the bonded labor practices, and this has been comes according to the identified bonded labors. Abolition of the bonded labor will be taking according to this abolition of this particular act. Release and rehabilitations we can say about that bonded labors, and it also mandates the particular survey subsequent releases from the bondage. So liability of a particular landlords and the employers which comes under the particular person responsible for employees bonded labor accountability for their actions. District vigilance commissions also we can see to monitor and oversee the implementation of the particular act. Compensation we can see bonded laborers who have come from the freed entitled to compensation as per the provisions of the act. Case law we can say that Supreme Court issues guidelines for the effective implementation of the act, including the identification and the rehabilitation of the bonded laborers. Contract labors we can say regulation and abolition act 1970, and here the particular act has been comes according to that particular welfare, and specific case laws and analysis also we can just frame on the particular issues. And here the applicability we can say where 20 or more workers are employed in a contract labor, it does not apply to an establishment. There are inherently we have to remember that. But registration processes, if you want to see for an establishment of this particular act, principal employers who engage contract labor are required to register their establishments within appropriate authorities. Licensing here also for the contracts, the contractor employed contract labor must obtain licenses from the appropriate authorities. The license specified the number of laborers and at the same time the contract is allowed to employ. So conditions of a services we can say is the contract laborers must receive wages and other benefits that are less favorable than those received by laborers directly employed by the directors or principal employed in a similar work. Welfare measures we can talk about as mandate for the welfare of a particular people, that is in the way of a cleaning water, canteen, restrooms, first aid facilities for the contract laborers. Prohibition and then abolition we can see under the particular activities of appropriate government to prohibit contract labor in certain establishments and to process deemed in appropriate way. Penalties and offences, if you want to see, violation of this particular act provisions can result penalties and legal action against both the principal employer and the contractor. So case laws 1991 we can see Gujarat Panchayat versus State of Gujarat. License issued to the labor contractor under section 12 of Contract Labor Regulations and Abolition Act 1970. It is only after the enactment of the particular act. And the Contract Act Regulation and Abolition 1970 Act was enacted to prevent exploitation of contract laborers, as there was no existing legislation that deal with contract labor. Child labor, if you want to talk on 1986 prohibition and regulation, this act is very important in the legislation of India at addressing the issue of a child labor, and it also prohibits the employment of the children in certain hazards, occupation and the process, and regulates the worker conditions children in non-hazards, and prohibition of employment also which comes under children below the age of 14, certain hazards, occupations and process. And People Union versus Union of India 1982 case, and here the Supreme Court directed the government to take immediate action to prevent the employment of children in industries. Regulation of work and conditions. For children employed in this particular occupations or the non-hazards, the Act regulates the work hours conditions. It also mandates that should not be work more than 6 hours and the day which has to be comes according to the periodical rest intervals. Mr. Mehta versus State of Tamil Nadu, we can say that this is strictly enforcing provisions which has been taken under the particular act, and the prohibition of workers after the school hours also has been prohibited during vacation, and education is prioritized under this particular act. Penalties and violations, if you want to see, penalties can include fines and imprisonment when any kind of employer who violates these provisions. I can say that overall past years the government has effectively working on this particular protection, promote and uplift the weaker sections of the societies, and measures have been taken to fill up gaps between weaker policies or the weaker population and the remaining population. The empowerment of weaker sections of a society has become an important point of discussion for the points. Policymakers, socialist strengthening of the weaker sections involves social, educational, economical, political strengthening. The state must be exceptionally careful while implementing the provisions relating to the particular instructions or the instructive and monetary upliftment of the weaker society. Thank you very much.